stay frosty. Hello and welcome to The Songs That Made Us. This is the podcast that likes to say we are limousine riding, woo, jet flying, woo, Rolex wearing, woo, stealing, wheeling dealing, sons of a gun.
That was really unexpected. Usually I ask you if you've got an intro and I can like prep myself, and I didn't even think about this time, so you just go off into this. Woo!
The worst part is, I thought to do that earlier, but I thought, no, I'm not going to fucking do that. And so when I went into it there, I realised I didn't think of a second intro to do instead. So I didn't actually remember what words I was supposed to be using in what order. But for any of my wrestling fans out there, they all know that that's a somewhat Jano version of a Ric Flair promo.
Perfect. I think it's perfect. It suits us. It's
Even though
anybody listening is going to be so pumped for this episode now.
Woo! Ric Flair woo, man.
How's it going, Jake?
The Ric Flair drip goes woo on a bitch. Have you ever heard that?
He's in a loop.
Have you never heard that?
Of course I've heard it. I've not said once that I haven't heard that.
That's what I asked you, and then you said, oh, he's stuck in a loop. That doesn't follow what I asked, does it? So you're here with me, the Nature Boy, Muffin Man.
Muffin Man, yeah.
Muffin. What are my other pseudonyms?
I don't know, you got loads. Oh yeah, Rinky Dink. Oh, I forgot about Rinky Dink. Oh, thank you.
That was the first batch of recordings, wasn't it? So like, that might have even been in the first episode.
Maybe, yeah. I feel like we just got so many aliases now.
Well, if you listen to either last week's or the week before show, my partner in crime here, Mr. Cupcake, is Connor the Beaver Reed.
What, the beaver? Where's that coming from?
It just seemed to flow best with Connor Reed.
I just don't like the fact that if this ever gets off the ground, and we get big, I don't want to be called by other people Cupcake or Beaver. I kind of want something cooler.
All right, I'll be the Nature Boy Muffin.
Lovely. The Nature Boy Muffin, yeah.
Woo! Chocolate chips. And you can be, if you want a badass sounding name, obviously you don't want to look like a twat when people are yelling out, "Oh, lemon squirts."
Well, now that's going to happen.
Oh, Strawberry Pip, how are you doing? I don't know why they're all sort of from, the 40s, 50s.
I don't know why
60s.
they're like old Jana women.
It's very much, Terry Jones in Life of Brian.
Yeah, it is.
He's not so he's a very naughty boy. Stone him.
There we go. Maybe I'll just be the naughty boy. So you'll be the nature Cupcake and the naughty boy. Best band name ever.
No, what was that? Nature Boy Muffin.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Nature Boy Muffin and the naughty boy.
That would be awesome. I was going to name you as Macho Man Cupcake Boy.
Jesus Christ. I actually really like that. The Adventures of Nature Muffin and the Naughty Boy.
That would actually be pretty. We're gonna have to rename
that should be the podcast name. That would reel people in. They'll be like, oh, what's all this about?
Well, we could open up avenues away from music then as well. We could talk about any pop culture.
Yeah, culinary stuff.
And this week are the Adventures of Nature Boy Muffin and Naughty Boy. They learn how to do a proper tiramisu.
Perfect. Yeah, I think this just broadens our horizons. We've got a nice career ahead of us.
Yeah, I think when we finally make it to TV.
Yeah, completely.
It'll be like an idiot abroad. Only we're not complete idiots. We're just fucking we're
Wait,
idiots.
speak for yourself.
Well, I'll say. Well, you know. What I was gonna say is, like, I forgot what I was gonna say now.
That's right. So it's a lot to handle. The start of this podcast is
We've been derailed inside of 5 minutes, and now it's just from the intro.
I think it's just we just never got onto the rails.
No, the rails weren't there for us. Our minecart was hurtling down a shaft at an alarm rated knots. No rails. Like a train over a cliff.
That's how we like it.
Yeah, we like it to be full of death, destruction,
Woo!
and us falling to our misery. Woo! I'm gonna hate editing this one. I'm gonna hear that back and go, "Oh, I've turned into a complete and utter cunt." So,
what happens, man? You'll learn in future of how you prep for a podcast.
Well, next time I'll do it like, welcome to the Songs That Made Us Sisters podcast, like say, "Oh yeah, cream rises to the top, oh yeah."
Sticking with the culinary theme, I love it.
gotta have beef. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Mm. My voice isn't suited to Randy Savage, but let me try it again.
Yeah, don't break yourself.
Oh yeah. Mm. Gotta have beef, gotta have meat. Step into a Slim Jims, oh yeah.
Jesus Christ. Do you know, one of these days we should just start really like mundane. And just be like, hello, this is the Songs That Made Us. I'm here with Jake Hughes. How are you doing today, Jake? Today we're going to be talking about Joy Division. They were a hit band, you may have heard of them.
You sound like Steve Lamacq.
Oh, I feel like I did, yeah. I'm quite happy with that.
Oh, well, I was thinking we could do that, but it's like it goes on for an absurdly long time.
Yeah.
So up until like the 10th, 12th minute, and then just a needle scratch, and then we come properly.
And then like a massive like punk riff.
Yeah.
And be like, how's it going?
And it'll be like a complete and utter juxtaposition of what they've heard for 12 minutes.
Yeah.
The 12 minutes there.
It's like the young ones, and like the wall like blows up, and then the real us step in.
But I just like the idea of it going on for absurdly long as well. Because I like the idea that people will sit there and listen to it and be like, well, fuck, they've changed up their game. And then, because they'll get past like the first 2 minutes of discomfort, and they'll be sort of wondering, well, is this new direction they're going to go in? And that'll be about, 3 or 4 minutes. And then by the time they're happy with it, that's when you put it out from them.
We got to gain people's trust before that. Like, people have got to be, like, assured that they're in for a good ride every time they open a podcast. So that when it starts, they don't instantly go, wait, have I clicked on the wrong fucking thing? What's happened with these guys? Like, and then hook them in and then fuck them up.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I think we've already built up a level of trust, but that's based around the erratic nature of
complete anarchy, We like to be unpredictable.
Although actually I quite like the idea of us being the Vivians of the podcast world. Vivian, what are you doing? I'm eating a brick. Some of these bricks explode. Fucking Aid Edmondson.
That's brilliant.
Oh, it was a crap Aid Edmondson impression. It was a very good Terry Jones as an old woman again. So,
I think that's your stock comedy impression.
Yeah.
You got Macho Man Randy Savage and Terry Jones. I think that's a good repertoire.
Well, yeah, it certainly covers all the bases. But I think I missed out. Like, we should have done a production of Life from Brian in school.
Ah, man, yeah. Yeah, we definitely missed a trick there. Maybe we should just do an audiobook of us doing all the characters.
Do you know what? That could be quite funny.
Yeah, an audio play of Holy Grail.
Yeah, it would have to be a sort of... Yeah, it'd have to come out as a sort of special episode, but like a normal episode is alongside it. Just so people are like, okay, they can do that, that's fine, as long as I've got my main audio content.
Well, maybe we do like a podcast based on all of the songs in every Monty Python, like Monty Python ever made. And then we do it in the voice of Monty Python characters. Do you reckon that'll get a bit too unbearable, like 5 minutes in?
I like the idea of doing either Holy Grail or Life of Brian.
Yeah.
That would be fucking epic.
That's true. And they got a lot of, actually, to be honest though, like on a serious note, they got a lot of songs in Holy Grail.
Yeah, all about Robin Hood running away.
Yeah. I think that'd be great. And I want to do like, what's the really camp sergeant from the sketches?
Oh, I can't
They're like,
remember.
oh, that's a nice one over there. Like, I can't remember, but it's really funny.
Oh, we could do the is it the anger management one?
Yeah.
Where he goes into the office and oh no, it's the arguing one, isn't it?
Yeah, there's. Sorry, I've come in for an argument. No, you haven't. Yes, you have. Yes, I have. No, you haven't.
Ah,
My favorite one is where it's just two people sat at a desk and there's the window behind them,
oh,
and then the body just falls, and then one of them's like, "Did you see that?" But and eventually, by the end of the sketch, they're betting on the next person to jump off. It's so dark. I think that says a lot about my humor.
I think it says a lot about that whole era of British humour as well,
Yeah.
because that I argue that's influenced us probably as much as music has.
Oh, completely.
Think about our sensibilities the way we are.
But it's interesting as well because they were very much influenced by music and influenced a lot of the music of the time as well. That's why all of them were such good friends with rock stars.
Well, yeah, you think about young ones especially as well. They always had in every episode that little section where a band would basically play their single. So
Yeah, I think there was a big connection between British rock and British comedy
well,
for a
yeah,
long time.
I would say British punk and post-punk definitely.
Yeah, completely.
Because
Hey, that's a good segue into what we're going to talk about.
damn it, I'm starting like young
Look at
ones now.
Oh no.
But yeah, so as Steve Lamacq told us earlier, we are actually looking at Joy Division, both the actual studio albums as well as a little bit of stuff from the compilation albums.
Mhm.
Now, Joy Division, this is your area of expertise, I think.
I don't know if it's my
Please.
area of expertise. I'm just a bigger fan, or like I was a full-on fan. Like it's safe to say, it's kind of like the flip of the Iron Maiden podcast because you've definitely heard some Joy Division songs. Everyone's heard some Joy Division songs if you're from England.
See.
But you haven't necessarily dug deep or listened to a lot, and not even. I suppose is it fair to say the stuff you had heard, you weren't even hugely a fan of?
Yeah, so I have listened to Unknown Pleasures before.
Oh, the whole album.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that was a fair old while ago, prior to,
That's
this
back,
morning.
I imagine back when we were all getting into like more alternative rock, so you start listening to the big bands and you go, oh, right, well, this is supposed to be an amazing album, this is supposed to be an amazing band. So you start dipping in and then you figure out what you like.
Yeah, I think it's around about the age when, we're getting into that sort of stuff, but also when you have that sort of pretentious thing of like, or at least I did, where it's like, well, I'm going to watch the Empire Top 500 movies in order from
Exactly.
500 to 1.
And then like a couple years down the line you go, oh, actually Empire aren't a good movie list. What you want to listen to is the sound, what's the magazine called? Sound and something. And then you go, oh yeah, that's got all Casablanca and Tokyo Story and all of those sort of films. And
no, you want to check out the one in the Japanese market. The Japanese market shows you all the great Japanese films that we're not seeing.
Exactly, yeah. And it's actually, the best Hitchcock film is Vertigo, despite what everyone says about Psycho and everything like that. And he started to become a pretentious prick about it. But it's the same with music. You go through that age, or at least we did, of going, well, I'm not just going to listen to shit music. I'm going to get really elitist and listen to music that I just know is really good.
Yeah, the music that we've all heard talked about as being like the greatest things in the world.
Yeah.
So you're there like, well, if I listen to this and it's not in the current pop, top 10.
I can be quite the same with books, to be honest. I'm still in that frame of mind with books. Like I only read books that I know are seen and heard of as thought of as classics or brilliant reads. I need to get out of that really because I don't like that mindset. I've come out of it with music. Like there was a point in time where you would never catch me ever listening to anything Harry Styles or because of just the association of One Direction. I'm like, that's shit music. You'll never catch me dead listening to that. But I have to admit his latest stuff I dig quite a bit.
Yeah, it's not the first time we've mentioned him on the podcast, and no, it's not being an episode.
Jake's still elitist.
It's based on a reason for me. So the main reason and this is less with Harry Styles, this is more in general. Like 99% of the music that you'll see that's on, the top of any Billboard chart, anything like that, it's the same thing. It's a person who's either a really good singer or an okay singer, usually female, who doesn't write the song, doesn't write the music, doesn't create anything, and just goes out there like somebody's working out through her arse like a sock puppet.
Yeah, I get you, but there's still that's because it's become the industry it has, so they're churning out shit, and I get that, but there's still a lot of great artists out there that are completely. I mean, if you look at people like Tame Impala, that's actually just one dude. That's Kevin Parker doing all of the music, all of the lyrics, all of the production, everything, and it's brilliant stuff.
But you're assuming what I'm saying is that I don't listen to current bands. That wasn't what I was saying.
Okay, sorry.
Hey, come on, I know who fucking Tame
I think
Impala.
yeah, but I think there's an aspect of that though, because especially maybe not anymore, but when we were growing up, like how often when we were in our mid-teens did we listen to anything that wasn't from before the year 2000, unless it was Red Hot Chili Peppers
Or Linkin Park.
I suppose Linkin Park as well. Yeah,
you get where that, but then saying that, there was also like you were okay to listen to Machine Head, or you could listen to
but that's because they're still outsider bands, so everyone's a hipster when they're a teenager.
Yeah, pretty much.
But on that note then, so you had listened to Unknown Pleasures when you were younger, and when we're talking about like a unique sound and stuff that isn't churned out and stuff, that's, for me, Joy Division are kind of the epitome of that, because I still think to this day, especially with their first album with Unknown Pleasures, they created a sound that had not been around before and has not really been around since.
I'm actually going to debate you on not being around before.
Okay.
So, 10 years prior to them, and I will grant you there's sort of derivations of the sound, if you will.
Yeah.
So, well, actually, sorry, 9 years before Unknown Pleasures, an album came out. The opening song, in terms of the overall sound, you have to go with me a little bit on this.
Yeah.
Was pretty much exactly the same as the majority of that album.
Okay. Are you talking about The Doors?
No.
All right. Who are you going to bring up?
I was thinking something a little bit closer to home. Something from the Midlands. Sabbath. War Pigs.
Sabbath. Yeah.
You know, that groove in the background with the bass driving it.
Yeah.
The overall sort of gloomy sort of soundscape of it all. That kind of not quite lo-fi, but sort of not really properly there.
I get where you're coming from, and actually, like, I was thinking this the other day when I was re-listening to these albums. Especially, there's one song in the second album. I don't want to get too jumbled up, but there's one song in the second album, Closer, called 24 Hours.
Yeah, we'll definitely be talking about that later.
Yeah, but like a lot of their riffs and a lot of the atmosphere they make sounds early heavy metal, and it's definitely heavily influenced by early heavy metal.
Oh yeah, and funnily enough, the main thing they were influenced by was Sex Pistols.
Yeah, of course, but everyone was like, at the time, everyone was. I know, like Ian Curtis specifically, who is obviously anyone who doesn't know. So Joy Division were a band in 1979, 1980, and really young lads.
A band that formed 1976, people.
Yeah. Sorry, I was talking about the album 79, 70.
Yes,
80.
I've got the research. Don't worry.
But yeah, just a young group of lads from Manchester, Macclesfield, and basically playing the pub scene, and then, in my opinion, created a really unique sound. Definitely influenced by other artists. I've mentioned The Doors. You've mentioned Sex Pistols and Sabbath. And unfortunately, in 1980, the lead singer Ian Curtis killed himself at 23 years old.
On the eve of their American Canada tour.
Yeah, literally the day before, and it kind of propelled them into stardom. and now they're a big part of British music history and culture. I would debate having influenced a fuck ton of bands since, but in my opinion as well, like, people have never been able to emulate their sound.
I would also make an argument that they are probably a more influential band on British music than the Beatles.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting.
I would say that about several thousand bands that have.
I know, but you hate the Beatles.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need to re-go through that.
Yeah.
I've already been through that on the podcast.
Yeah,
And didn't take any lumps.
So Ian Curtis was heavily influenced by Iggy Pop. Yeah, definitely the punk scene. So like, if you actually like look at early pictures of him and stuff, he used to wear black eyeliner, everything like that.
Hey, yeah, hold fire there a sec, baby bird. Let me feed you.
Oh. I love that. Oh, back, baby bird. Let me feed you.
You made it sound much more sexual than I did.
I know.
You put on like the Barry White voice.
That's how I heard it in my head, though.
Here I am, baby. Feed you. You lay you down by the fire. So I put a bit of chef on there. Nice, okay.
Go on, feed me. Go on.
Right, so the reason I picked the Sex Pistols was because the literal formation of the band came out after Peter Hook, and not as familiar with the names as you. Bernard Summer and Peter Hook.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Hook being the bassist and Bernard Summer being someone. Was he the guitar?
I think so. I don't know the names that well either. I know. That's the thing. I know Ian Curtis because it's Ian Curtis.
Yeah, lead guitar.
Yeah,
lead guitar.
Cool.
Yeah. You're fine. You know what you're talking about. Stephen Morris was the drummer.
Right.
Anyone who just wanted to know. So 1976, 4th of June, Bernard Summer and Peter Hook separately attended a Sex Pistols show at the Manchester Lesser Free Trade Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And when both of them saw the Pistols performance, and presumably if that's 1976, I imagine Glenn Matlock was in the band rather than Sid Vicious.
Yeah.
I think. Because obviously they did Anarchy in the UK and the video with Glenn Matlock.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, bassists of Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
And Matlock was the one who had the talent. Unfortunately, Sid Vicious, who replaced him, was the guy who had the look.
And the attitude for punk.
Well, yeah, that comes out of being a bit of a dick, really.
Yeah. But here's where I think it goes full circle. So I'm assuming, so they saw them perform and were like, fuck, I need to make a band. I need to...
Exactly. So Summer said...
Yeah, sorry, carry on.
Summer said that he felt the Pistols destroyed the myth of being a pop star, of a musician being some kind of god that you had to worship. So it basically blew away their entire sort of concept.
So interesting. And almost the exact same thing happened when Iggy Pop performed in England, and what's his name? Oh my god, it's left my head. Not Joe Strummer from The Clash, but the guitarist.
The guitarist from The Clash?
Yeah. It's left my head.
Mick Jones?
Yeah, Mick Jones. So Mick Jones and thingy from the fucking Sex Pistols. But they saw Iggy Pop live in a gig in London, and they thought, fuck me, I need to be doing this sort of music. And that's sort of how punk, or at least those bands got formed in the UK as well. So,
well, it goes, let me give you another morsel here. It also goes completely full circle. You think about, there's always that famous gig that's referenced within sort of like the whole Manchester kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which see in like 24-hour party people and all that.
Yeah.
So it all goes around.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense because when Joy Division started, they actually started as a band called Warsaw, which were a full-on punk band and really straightforward punk. If you get their compilation album Substance, which is all singles, B-sides, unreleased tracks, and alternate versions of tracks, it starts off with a load of their early, really punk stuff. And they were initially making an album called Warsaw under the band name Warsaw, which has famous tracks on it like Transmission, but they they didn't get along with the producer, and they had like some disagreements, and then that album sort of fell by the wayside, and then they switched up their sound. From my understanding of history with it.
Sort of, yeah. And the only reason they dropped the moniker of Warsaw is because there was another band called Warsaw PK, I think.
Right.
So they were like, well, we don't want to be confused with them. And people came up with some strange names for them at the time. I think it was like the day before a gig, they eventually settled on Joy Division.
Yeah,
which
I think their producer made them like come up with a name when they were recording the album as well.
Yeah, I think it was literally before a show or before an album, but it was, that's the thing as well. And for people who don't know, Joy Division, not a happy term.
No, well, isn't it a brothel for German soldiers?
No, a brothel for German soldiers would be a nice way of selling it.
Right.
It was a wing of Nazi concentration camps where there would be people.
Holy shit. Okay, I completely
They're
did
sexual
not know
slavery
that.
wing, basically.
Damn, I had no fucking clue of that. So I always thought it was a brothel that was used by German soldiers, and that's so much more horrendous.
No, that's only if you were looking at like, fucking a description of it by Goebbels.
yeah. Jesus Christ. And yeah,
I didn't think I'd get a Goebbels reference in there today.
It always goes back. So I suppose we're doing a kind of little timeline now then. So sorry,
it's Warsaw Pact, they were called.
Ah, right, fair. Yeah, so I suppose we're doing a little bit of a timeline then. So they started off straightforward punk. Another thing to note as well is that it was initially the 3 other members, and they had a band, but they thought they were shit. They ran into Ian Curtis.
Just back up a little bit.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I'm going to concede something.
Okay.
Technically, they were German military brothels.
Right. Okay.
However, they were wings of a concentration camp.
Grim. Still grim. Disgusting.
Yeah, there were around about 500 military brothels of this kind in Germany or German-occupied Europe, often operating in confiscated hotels and guarded by the Wehrmacht. These facilities served travelling soldiers and those withdrawn from the front. According to records, at least 34,140 European women were forced to serve as prostitutes during German occupation of their own countries, along with female prisoners of concentration camp brothels.
Ah, man, that's horrendous.
Yeah,
and obviously, obviously, the band are just doing it ironically because it's the 70s and it's punk and it's anti being proud of the war and it's anti nationalism, and they're just doing it to be provocative, same as the Sex Pistols.
Yeah
Exactly.
I would hopefully go with that. It's
unless they were massive Nazi sympathizers.
Well, the thing is, like, unlike Eric Clapton, I've not heard of anyone from Joy Division or anything like that being described as sort of Nazi idealists or anything. Whereas Eric Clapton openly came out as a racist in the 70s, I believe.
Yep.
He went on a racist tirade during a gig.
What a prick.
Indeed. And
so yeah,
nowadays he can't play guitar because of arthritis. So,
well,
equality won in the end, fucking Clapton.
So obviously, and then the band had a load of singles and played in a load of gigs and stuff before making their first album. And their first album was Unknown Pleasures, but there was a lot on the cutting room floor, which is why you end up with compilation albums like Still, which is a full album of completely unreleased tracks that you wouldn't see anywhere else, that came out after Ian Curtis died, where you'll get a bit more of a hint of like their punk roots and whatnot. So the thing is about Unknown Pleasures, well, what's your overall view on it now? Did you like I'm assuming you weren't a big fan of it when you first listened to it when you were younger?
No.
Nope.
No. Wasn't my cup of tea. But again, I was also at the point where, because they were so well liked, the other part of being a hipster came in and swooped me away and went, well, I can't like them then.
Right, I get you completely. Yeah, fair. Did you not even like, I know this is really separate because it's not on the album, but did you like songs like Love Will Tear Us Apart?
Nope. I can't remember which band I was in at the time, but no, it wasn't with you guys. One of my other projects, we did do a cover of Love Will Tear Us Apart.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was one with Ben Baker in, actually, but
fair.
It's something like that. But I used to play the bass line wrong anyway, because wasn't going to bother playing chords back then. I was only fingers. I had like several years of complete anti-pick stance. If you use a pick, real bassists use fingers. God damn it.
And what, you just didn't like that song because everyone else loves that song, or do you still not like that song?
Ooh, this is a really hard way to phrase it without giving away my total opinion on things.
Yeah, we can go back to it.
No, I'll give you. Don't worry. I've got a morsel for you. It's fine. I would say it's one of the better songs out of the bunch.
Right.
From what I hear with Joy Division, and there's a couple of songs we'll talk about in depth anyway. So I don't necessarily rate that song higher than what I used to.
Right.
It's just that the rest of it is underwhelming for me.
So are you still not a fan of Unknown Pleasures then?
I am still not a fan of Unknown Pleasures, unless the unknown is which whore will it be tonight?
Did you plan that joke, or was that like...
How could I plan?
I don't know, you half looked like you were ready to say...
It's because it came into my mind. And I realised how good a joke it was.
Fair. So what is... I can understand. So me and Charlie listen to Joy Division a lot, especially over the last week. She's ended up becoming a really big fan, and she hadn't.
She seems depressed.
But she hadn't listened to a lot of their stuff, or she had heard a lot of stuff but didn't realise it was Joy Division. So she's like, "Oh, I didn't realise they did this song." And I've always said, and I think I said to her before we started listening, I completely understand anybody not being a fan of Joy Division, because it, like I said, it's super unique music. And it's also very fucking bleak, especially this first album. Like, this first album, content-wise and lyrically, it is a fucking bleak album. And I almost think of it as a concept album. With both of their studio albums, we'll go in a bit more depth, but I almost think their studio albums that they released are they're not concept albums in terms of content of lyrics, but in atmosphere, they feel like concept albums. It feels like they cohesively thought, I'm going to create this atmosphere in this album, and every song adds to that.
I don't think they thought about it.
So
a lot of their stuff, riffs and all that, songs really all came out of jamming. So I reckon it's more a case that was just how they're comfortable playing.
I would say it's more telling when you look at what ended up on the cutting floor. Like, songs like Transmission, which they had way before this album, didn't appear on this album. And that's an excellent song. In fact, it's a fan favorite. A load of people love Transmission. Also, when you listen to Still, the third album I got you to listen to, a good first half of that album, I think, was recorded around about the same time as them doing Unknown Pleasures, and they specifically chose not to put those songs on the album because it, in my opinion, I think it's because they didn't gel with the atmosphere, and it didn't cater to the sound they were trying to put out there. Because at the same time as creating this album, they had a lot more punky, a lot more fast-paced stuff that they chose not to put on this, because this is a very slow-paced album. It's very spacious, and I think they were really actively working on keeping that the case, because they had a load of opportunity and a load more songs that they could have shoved on that would really be upbeat. The most upbeat song on the album is the first song, Disorder, and then after that it's very...
Oh, I think, She's Lost Control is probably at least up tempo.
It's still like on the original version, because there's two versions of She Lost Control, and there's one that you can listen to on the Substance album, which is a bit more fast paced. But I think like in Unknown Pleasures, when you listen to the album, it doesn't feel that fast paced, and it's still only like dun, 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 dun.
Thinking it from the bassist perspective, though, so rather than just playing eighth notes in there, I can play 16th notes in that gap. So for me, it could be faster.
But that's the thing, is, and also like yeah. Well, that's the thing about this album. The only driving force in this first album is the bass, and the bass is pretty much the center point. which is why I was interested as to whether you'd like it or not, because I know that they're very simple bass riffs and they don't
Well,
change much.
I have some good things and bad things to say. Now, first off, before we delve 100% into the bass, I've got a great comparison for what this entire album sounds like. Now,
Okay.
cast your mind back, the very first episode we did, I got you to listen to an album called The Holy Bible by Lyricist Preachers. There's a song towards the end of that called The Intense Humming of Evil.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. And the whole song is basically how this whole album sounds to me.
Fair. Okay.
Which is fine when it's an intense humming of evil, but when it's an entire album, it's harder.
Yeah. Did it not like? Does the album just drag out for you then?
Yeah, and considering what the album, so Unknown Pleasures running time, I think it's around 39 minutes 28 seconds long, and I was pretty sure that I started listening to it at 6 a.m. and I didn't stop until 12. But that's the thing, it does have its moments. So Disorder, I would say, is a good song. What a great song.
I love that song.
And again, so this is where we can delve into the bass a bit more. So this is where, this song in particular is where I'm really, really mixed on Peter Hook.
Right.
Part of me thinks he's a fucking genius. A, distortion on the bass rarely happens. B, he's got his bass down by his feet as he plays, and C, he plays chords. Again, this is before Maiden have had their debut album as well. This is before Cliff Burton was debuting across America, doing the same thing with his bass.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like a forerunner of a lot of this stuff, but in very much more like a caveman kind of basic way.
Well, this is how I kind of feel about the band in general, especially musically, because they're not necessarily, the three guys, they're not necessarily doing stuff that's difficult, but they're doing stuff that hadn't been done before.
Four guys.
No, because Ian Curtis didn't really play any instruments. I'm talking just musically. He did play guitar sometimes, but musically...
He had a really ugly looking guitar, by the way. He had a really ugly looking guitar.
Yeah.
I hate those fucking shaped guitars.
The thing is about Ian Curtis, I'll briefly mention this. He had he wasn't, and this is a very controversial statement, but he wasn't musically talented. The guy only was in the band because he was a mate they had at the pub, and they preferred to have a mate in the band than some random dude. And lyrically, he's really interesting. He wrote a lot of poetry and stuff, and I think that's what really carries it. And he has such a weird voice. In my opinion, he can't really sing, but that kind of caters to the atmosphere of the tracks.
You hear him trying to sing on some of the stuff from Still.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
not pleasant.
It's not pleasant, but I think it works for the atmosphere. Like, it works within the confines of the tracks. And I think, in general, what they are, they're innovators. Like, I think they're musical geniuses because they're not necessarily doing stuff that's difficult, but they are doing stuff that complement each other perfectly in creating this weird atmosphere and the sound that I think makes them really unique. There's a lot of space in these tracks, but it still feels pretty full at the same time. The guitar riffs are really interesting. They're really cutting. He made such a great noise. Like, the production on the guitar in all of the Joy Division stuff is so excellent, and the drums are all very precise and very spacious, but also quite bombastic as well,
and very programmed.
As well sometimes.
So that's the thing. I sort of found the opposite. I found it was too empty.
Right. Okay.
There wasn't much happening. Like, the atmosphere, it was dreary, but not dreary enough in a depressed way. It was just like, it's just like when you go outside and it's overcast and it's drizzling. Yeah. Like, you could take the full-on rain, that's one extreme. You could take bright sunshine, but when it's just a bit of drizzle, it's it's the worst. Yeah, that's fair. I think it's like I said, I understand anybody not liking Joy Division, especially this album, because it's really bleak. But I do think when you take into context of the time and what other music was around, I think you still have to respect it. Well, I did say earlier that I think they were more influential than the Beatles.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you, mate.
Well, no, you're sort of saying to me like, well, you've got to respect it. It's like,
No.
I've shown them respect. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm not
Calm
speaking to
down.
you. I'm not speaking to you personally. I'm just sort of throwing it out there. Yeah, I'm asking if you agree.
Yeah, I do. Don't worry. Fucking hell. Jesus, Cupcake's gone all Muffin on me.
You're so defensive, man.
I'm not defensive. You only came at me.
I didn't come at you. That's the thing.
You look like a fucking spider monkey. So you're flying out from the bushes.
So, are you a fan of basically the big hits on this album are Disorder and She's Lost Control, and I get the fact that you like those.
Yeah, those are okay songs.
Do you like? So my favorite song.
I shouldn't say those are good songs. I don't know why I said okay. Like I was trying to deny. No.
My personal favorite song on the album is which I suppose I'm just giving it away because usually we guess these.
Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna guess. We
Do
do the guessing now for unknown pleasure. Right. So I reckon it's going to be. I'm gonna go with Shadow Play.
I love Shadow Play. It's not my favorite.
For fuck's sake, you always do this to me. Oh yeah, I love that song. But no, that's not. It's not the one. Okay, go on.
My favorite on the album is Interzone.
That's my next guess.
I like the. I have to admit that, and this is controversial as well, although fans are split on this. This isn't my favorite Joy Division album. I really like it a lot, and I think I really dig the atmosphere. But you have to be in a certain mood to. I don't know. Actually, I could listen to it any time, but it is bleak, and it is slow tempo, and there are a couple songs like Disorder, Shadow Play, and Interzone that pick up the pace for me and do. They're a bit heavier, but they're not too heavy. And I quite like them because of that. And Interzone, I think, is just I like the weird synth stuff on there. Yeah, it's just a personal favourite. I like the whole album, and there's not a shit song on the album for me. Jake's doing shifty eyes. Is your favourite...
There's nothing that sticks out to me as being absolute shite.
Yeah, it's just not your cup of tea.
It's just one long piece of drawn out death.
There. I'm gonna guess your favourite is She's Lost Control.
No.
Is it not? Disorder then. Yeah, there.
So I'm gonna blow your fucking mind now.
Go on then.
No, I'm not actually. I'm gonna save that.
Oh fuck.
No, I realised I blew my link into it. I had a different link into it that I wrote down to definitely tell me not to do what I've just done.
Well, what's your thoughts before we move on and stuff? Because I think it's more prevalent on this album than it is on the others. But what's your thoughts on Ian Curtis as a lyricist?
Like an Edgar Allan Poe poem. It is what it is.
Fair.
It's not great.
And now, can you answer my question in a less poncy way?
I just give you then. Just because they're bleak shouldn't mean that I've got to like them. They're not the greatest, but they're not the worst. They're okay.
Yeah. You're like neither here nor there with them.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, especially with this album, and to an extent on Closer as well. These albums are poorly produced, and I think that's 99% of the. Well, I'd say it's 75% of the problem as to why I don't get on with it. It's poorly produced, so it doesn't seem. It's very trebly. There doesn't seem to be anything filling in the gaps or actually providing you with any sort of bass. That is down to the music somewhat as well, because Peter Hook, usually he's playing on the G string, so the higher string on the bass, and he's playing on the D, and he's playing high up the neck as well, which is partially because when he's playing live, that's easier to reach than longer up the neck. Yeah, especially.
I have to admit, I do have to listen to the remastered versions of all of these songs, and I do have to listen to them either with really good headphones or on my record player or on an app where I can turn up the bass. So I do, admittedly, like I agree with you production-wise that it is very trebly, and that can be quite grating. Like on shit speakers, it's hard as fuck to listen to.
Yeah, and I think the production ruins a lot of it as well, because if you do listen to it live, there's more energy, and that's always what I look for in an album is energy.
Yeah.
And it, apart from Peter Hook, it didn't seem to be there. But that's obviously because Peter Hook's playing lead effectively on that bass.
That's fair. Have you listened to any of their live stuff?
A few bits and pieces, just because I always like the shows live as well.
Do you prefer what they sound like live then, overall?
Yeah.
I reckon live that the atmosphere at their gigs would have been really fucking good.
Let me blow your mind for the first time.
Okay.
Probably now. This isn't just a little tickle. I know somebody who did see Joy Division live in roughly 1979.
No fucking way.
Yeah. They very much like me were underwhelmed, but my mother.
No way. Okay. Your mum's not a fan of Joy Division either then?
No, she's not. She's sort of like me. Like, Joy Division was far too depressing. The Smiths were the right sort of depressing.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
I like pretty depressing.
Yeah.
Not depressing.
No, just well, I mean, pretty isn't sort of quite depressing. So yeah, she saw him roughly in 79, 80, when she lived up in Leeds for a bit.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And yeah, she saw him.
See,
And not the New Order version.
Yeah, man, I think they would have been excellent live, and I do think I haven't listened to a lot of their live stuff. I'm planning on getting the Still LP, which has their last gig live on it as well, the remastered version. So it has their last gig in Birmingham live. I'm really excited to listen to that because I think the music's just going to translate better. I think in general their music does translate better on bigger speakers, maybe at a party or just as loud as you can make it. It works more.
It's also that annoying thing of the sound engineering with it and sound production in general is the bass. The drums rather come through a lot and really well. The bass is fairly muffled, but you can still distinguish it. Yeah. The guitar's very quiet, but peaks in and out and also goes across ears. But the vocals always seem hidden in the back.
So that's the thing that grated on me for a while, which is why for a long time I was like a half Joy Division fan, where I liked a load of their fucking tracks, but then I didn't like a load of their tracks. And the ones I didn't like, 9 times out of 10, it's because the vocals sound like they're in another room, or they're being played through like a phone speaker while everything else is really like crisp. And that bothered me for a long time, but now it doesn't so much, and I don't know why. Maybe I think it was obviously purposely done, and
I don't know. That's the thing. I think a lot of it is they were at a very small label that only sort of broke through as a label after Joy Division, partially because of Joy Division.
Yeah.
So they weren't funded very well, so they couldn't exactly get the best sound engineers and the best producer in. I think the tone, obviously, the 100%, that's all them. I'll go for that. The producer may sort of sway them in a certain direction when they're recording with them, but the production of the album, the actual sound and the way things are mixed, that's less going to be on the band.
Yeah,
I would say the mixing, think of like And Justice.
Yeah.
It's always my go-to for those kind of things. Like that, though, I think was a James or Lars decision in the end, because they kept going back and forth with Flang Rasmussen until they mixed it.
I got two kind of points of it. I'd be interested to hear your opinions on if you listen to Substance, because Substance has a load of alternate versions of these tracks that are mixed differently. And I personally,
I haven't.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'd be interested to see if you did listen to it, what you'd think after that.
I am going to give you a tease, though. I have heard better versions of the songs.
Okay, that's a good tease.
That's a tease.
But
when I blow your mind for the second time.
Yeah, but they have like. But on Substance, they have an alternate version of She's Lost Control, for example, which is leveled way more evenly, and the vocals sound a lot more forward. And I do prefer sometimes the alternate versions.
I'm assuming they remixed it when Control was being done, the film.
Potentially, yeah. I think as well there was an
She's Lost Control. There was a cleaner version of that on Control.
There is, yeah. And also that all came out around about the time, I think it was the 25th anniversary.
It would have been I would have been 28 at that point when the film was released. So
No, but I think
depending when they
Substance.
started.
Yeah,
Substance,
I think Substance, the compilation album, came out on the 25th anniversary, and they remastered a load of tracks, and they brought out the alternate versions that hadn't been released before. I think they did like appeal sessions and stuff like that, similar to what the Smiths did. That
I did
came
hear
out.
some stuff on Substance actually, because that had
Love
that
Affairs.
had digital Warsaw transmission.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. I totally listened to that just before. Yeah.
It was no, it wasn't like an anniversary at all.
Oh right. I thought it was in light of an anniversary release or something like that.
It was released, so I'm trying to think of which anniversary it would technically be now. So that would have been the 19th anniversary.
Oh right, maybe. Fair.
So it came out on 11th of July 1988.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know then, but
To burst your bubble, bitch.
that's all good. The other thing to note as well in terms of their production is that they were actually known to do some quite interesting things in the studio as well. Like obviously She's Lost Control has got the spray can, and then in their second album, Closer, in Isolation, the vocals are actually recorded through Ian Curtis being on the phone. So that's why they sound so flat. So they actually did purposely do some things to make the production the way it is. Whether that was the right choice or not, and whether that works for certain people or not, it didn't work for me for a long time, and now it does. I can completely understand if it doesn't.
I'm going to tell you who it didn't work for. It didn't fucking work for the Belgian album's Ultra Top Wallonia charts.
Okay.
Where did you like that smooth as fuck?
Yeah. It's so smooth, and also like I know you're about to tell me information that I really needed to know, and it's gonna blow my fucking mind.
Wow, on the Belgian album's Ultra Top Wallonia position, Unknown Pleasures only got a peak position of 194.
Oh no.
The Swiss were also not. Well, actually, saying that, the Belgian album's Ultra Top Flanders peaked at 65. So part of Belgium really didn't like it. Part of Belgium thought it was okay.
Right, brilliant. I'm glad I know. Speaking to the masses.
The Swiss albums, Schweizer Hitparade. Did you like how I went into Swiss? Yeah. Peaked at 98. The Italians, they didn't mind it so much, 34. Who else? The Germans thought it was okay. It got to 20 in Germany.
Yeah. They did a European tour. I do know that.
They didn't fucking go far enough in Belgium, did they? They left the Swiss right alone.
Fair.
They must have played on the fucking border of France and Switzerland.
Dude, into what's going on in Europe. Should we move on to the second album?
Yeah, we can move all the way through to 1980.
Wow, a whole year.
Yep, they didn't waste no time, and at time of recording, what just happened?
What I don't know, Jake. Why don't you tell me?
Why should I have to tell you about something that literally just happened to you?
What just happened to? Oh yeah, shit. Sorry, I thought you were like. I thought you were talking about. I thought you were talking about at the time that they were recording the album, something happened, and I was like, huh? No, yeah. So as we were recording,
what happened to you? What did your stories?
As we were recording the podcast, I had a little break, and then a record arrived, and it just so happened to be the second album of Joy Division. Because obviously we've been listening a load in preparation for this podcast, and that I showed Charlie the film Control the other day, and she really likes Joy Division as well, so I bought some vinyls. Control's an excellent film, and the actor is phenomenal, and he handles. So one thing we haven't mentioned, I suppose, if people do or don't know Joy Division, is that another reason why Ian Curtis became so prolific is because he had schizophrenia, and he used to do this weird dancing on stage. As a sort of coping mechanism.
Well, there's two schools of thought on that. Either schizophrenia and then he's taken on that as his persona.
Yeah.
or he did actually have epilepsy,
Yeah.
because he did.
Oh no, sorry, not I was going to say epilepsy. I didn't mean to say schizophrenia, but I do know that there's an idea that but I do know that there's an idea that he had schizophrenia as well.
Yeah, because if I remember rightly, in Control, they show it as he sees that girl fall over having a seizure, isn't it? And then he adopts it after.
I thought that was a true story for the reason for the song "She Lost Control," because he used to work in an was it for a bank or a post office or whatnot, and then
it was like a small little office thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then someone used to come in their local area who had epilepsy so bad that they used to have to wear a head guard for when they'd fall over. And then apparently, as the story goes, he found out that lady had died. So then he wrote the song "She Lost Control," and that wasn't. At least the film makes it out as that was around about the same time that he just found out that he had epilepsy. So it freaked him the fuck out.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, bear in mind I haven't seen the film in a long time, so the way I remembered it is he saw that and adopted that.
Yeah, and obviously we don't have how much. I don't know how accurate that film is. It seems like it was very accurate.
I can give you an idea. So it's based off of his wife at the time, who splits up with him by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
It's based on her. I think she wrote an autobiography or memoirs or something.
Right. Okay. So that's fairly accurate then. Well, at least it's side of point of view.
Yeah, it's fairly accurate, but obviously she only knew from sort of the point where she knew him properly, whereas they would have to take a bit more liberties with the ideas around his growing up and that. However, I can't remember if it is Peter Hook who said this. It might be. He was talking about Ian Curtis' epilepsy and saying that they've been having it in shows since the start. It only got worse. The drummer as well had noticed, like, when certain beats would play, he would essentially go into a trance and have a fit.
Yeah.
Be sort of dragged backstage and he'd cry his eyes out.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm more on the side that he 100% had the condition. It was 100% horrible. And it also explains the events sort of ending his life as well.
Completely. And I think it's, we can get more, I suppose we can talk about it now, but like, it's a big part of the reason why he has become the legend he has, I suppose, because it's interesting enough that he sung in a weird way because he couldn't really sing, but that's part of the sound that they made because of the way he couldn't sing. So that's one thing. I suppose it does sound a little bit like Jim Morrison, sorry. Which is why a lot of people think that they were very heavily influenced by the Doors and stuff. Also, the fact that he killed himself at a young age, and the fact that he had such a weird, unique dance that was brought on by epilepsy. I think it's all added to this like legend of Ian Curtis. Whether you liked him or not, it's definitely what made the band, because they definitely got huge after he had died.
Well, sort of. Their sort of status increased after he died, and I think that happens pretty much with every band. If anyone passes away, your stocks increase even if for a bit. Yeah. Because you're suddenly, people know who you are by virtue of that terrible thing happening.
Yeah. But there was an interesting interview. Sorry, quickly. There was an interesting interview with Morrissey and Johnny Marr, because Johnny Marr and Morrissey used to rehearse in the room below where Joy Division, because they're both from Macclesfield, they used to rehearse in the same building in the floor below. And
Joy Division were not Macclesfield.
No, sorry, Ian Curtis there was.
They were from Salford as a group.
No, they weren't.
As a group, they were from Salford.
Yeah, but the actual, like, they used to rehearse in Macclesfield, and also I'm pretty sure Ian Curtis is from Macclesfield. So I don't think they all are from. But anyway.
Origin, Salford, England.
Yeah, the band, but like, I'm pretty sure Ian Curtis is Macclesfield. Anyway, there's a story that Morrissey and Marr say on an interview how they used to rehearse in the same building and floor below.
He grew up in Macclesfield, Cheshire. He was actually born in Stretford, though. I'll have you know.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can I get the story out?
You can get the point from Macclesfield. It's fine.
But basically, Morrissey says in an interview that he found it interesting because no one really cared about Joy Division until after, at least from his point of view, no one talked about him or cared about him until after Ian Curtis died. And he was making a sort of comment about that. it's the same with celebrities. People think they're darlings, and
Well,
they make it better.
I would hate to disagree with the Lord and Saviour, Mr. Morrissey. However, Joy Division were bigger before people knew who the Smiths were.
I mean, that's 100% true, but it's just a different time.
So, yeah, Morrissey can misremember it in any way he wants. Actually, what happened
Also, I don't
after...
think we should necessarily call Morrissey the Lord of Saviour. So.
That I will say that was very sarcastic. I think Morrissey is actually an asshole.
Yeah, we respect him. For anybody who listens to this podcast, because we talk about the Smiths a lot, as a caveat, we like Morrissey as a songwriter. I think he has a really cool voice as well. As a human being, not very nice. Not a fan.
However, Johnny Marr looks like an absolute hero. Like, he gets... Yeah, I was watching a video. I can't remember if it was like Stairway or something like that. But he was playing a gig, and this fan sort of kept shouting him like, "Well, play this song, and I'll play it on guitar." And so Johnny Marr finally had enough and was like, "Well, come on then, come up and play it on guitar." So he had the fan come up, play a fucking perfect Smiths cover.
That's so sick.
The fan playing guitar, yeah. And like Johnny gave him his guitar as well, so Johnny's there singing vocals without worrying about the guitar because the kid in the background's doing it.
Mate, I just learned how to play still on the guitar as well.
Yeah, I can do it. I can do it on bass and guitar, I think.
I can do it on guitar, but it's taken me like 2 weeks to actually get it.
Yeah, I hate playing any Johnny Marr on guitar because it usually involves a capo, and you've usually got to be doing weird chord structures.
It's alternate picking, man. That's what I'm still getting my head around, but I've got there. I've got there with that song now.
Seriously, Street Spirit is really good one to try for that.
I was thinking about, cause I do want to learn how to play Waterfall, Stone Roses, and I was thinking about learning some Radiohead as well.
Yeah,
I interrupted your point about Joy Division being a big band or not.
Oh yeah, sorry. So actually, what got them famous? It was thankfully they sort of got big in their lifetime, to an extent for Ian Curtis. Bear in mind, in 1980, they're about to tour the US and Canada, and it may not be massive arena shows or anything like that, but anytime you're touring the USA is usually when there's been a big jump in your popularity.
Especially at that time as well.
Exactly, yeah. It's that horrible thing, actually. I think bands are viewed as bigger, like if they've come from here and they do play bigger shows in the USA, even though all we care about is our lot. But no, the biggest thing that disproves, Satan, or Mr. Morrissey as we call him. Satan is my Lord and Saviour, people. That's why I've called him Satan now. So the Enemy, after When Unknown Pleasures came out, the Enemy helped propel them forward, and the music scene around that time did actually sort of kind of welcome them with open arms, even though prior to Unknown Pleasures and the Enemy running it, the Enemy always did back then, really. So yeah, Joy Division did get famous before the Smiths.
There you go.
Also, by virtue of was it 1982? Was that the first Smiths album?
Yeah.
So we're still talking. Let me just double check that because I want to make sure I'm being right before I try and use this as another thing against Morrissey. So a debut album. Well, fuck. Actually, I was being generous. It turns out it came out in 1984.
There we go.
So 5 years prior to the Smiths releasing their debut album. Bear in mind, the Smiths had singles and that prior to that as well, which helped push them forward, and the famous like Hacienda gig and things like that. However, Unknown Pleasures was genuinely well received, despite what I was saying about Europe. It hit number 5 on the UK albums chart. So that sort of tells you something right there. It also charted really, really fun. Oh, actually, no, tell a lie. That was... Sorry, I've misspoke there. That might have been from 2019. But that would have been if it was a reissue or something.
Yeah, they released a remaster in 2019 of all the albums.
Right.
40th Anniversary Remaster.
No, what I'm thinking is it was the actual Top 100. I don't fucking know, actually. That's really weird. Yeah, I think it was just generic top 100 where
Mm.
they ranked it number 5. So, however, yeah, so at the time it looks like in 1981 charts it peaked at 71 in the UK, so I am wrong on that.
But
So
it obviously did well enough that they were quick to get out another album. Like
Well,
they were
yeah.
riding on a high popularity, and obviously, like I said, they did a European tour. They were about to go into a tour in America, so it couldn't have done terribly. And there is a reason why it stood the test of time. I think you look at like most lists online of best albums of all time, this tends to pop up within the top 100 or top 500. Yeah, it's known as a very iconic album. I think that's, like we've said before, I personally think it is an excellent album. So I agree with it in general, but also if I'm looking more objectively, I think it's because it's a very unique album as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what
we're saying about earlier about the whole idea of it not being the producer who had like the musical ideas would be from the band, the producer just sort of made. Actually, as it turns out, it was Martin Hannett, the producer, who did also significantly alter their live sound. So he pretty much did force their hand at the time. I think at the time Peter Hook was less than thankful because he felt it lost the energy of the live stuff. However, as of 2006, he does say that in retrospect, Hannett did do a good job and create the Joy Division sound.
Fair.
So
Peter Hook as well, though, was like infamous for being the more punk member of the band. Like, yeah, that was his idea. He wanted to play high energy, heavier music. And I think that seeps back into it. So when we get to Closer now, which is the second album, I actually prefer this album quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit more. I just think genuinely, I love the first album. I love Unknown Pleasures a lot, but Closer for me is just more high energy, and there's a bit more going on. It's more easy to listen to.
Yeah, maybe.
What's your thoughts?
It's a little bit easier to listen to, but there's nothing. For me, there's only one song that really stood out.
Which one?
24 Hours.
Yeah, I love that song. That's a practically a heavy metal song, though.
Yeah, and I think that's the only song that felt like it had any sort of energy again.
Really? Do you not think like songs like Isolation, which is the biggest single I think from this album, where this is where they started to, you kind of get you get how this eventually became New Order. So again, for a bit of context, when Ian Curtis passed away, the band continued and they became New Order, and exploring a lot more synth, a lot more like I suppose mainstream music, or following the mainstream.
Well, they did sort of help kind of pop up and create the house scene, really. You think about Blue Monday.
Yeah.
How many fucking parties or rave scenes do you reckon fucking Blue Monday was playing at?
Oh, 100%, yeah. And I think like that influenced a lot of Britpop that then came into the 90s and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think with Closer you start to hear a bit more of that synth. It's a lot more quick paced. It's a bit more poppy. The production is a lot more crisp and clear. They're being less atmospheric, I suppose, about it.
Yeah, so the production is still a little bit better, but it's still Martin Hannett, so it still has that sound.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, you can still tell it's very much the same band. Like, it's not like they've got a completely different evolution.
Yeah, they haven't evolved into the Monkees overnight. It's just a case of they are crisper, but I still struggle because of the production more than anything. And just everything again seemed obviously deliberately slow-paced. And this is when, his brain's also unraveling as well in terms of writing the lyrics. But yeah, it just, again, it's that signature Joy Division sound, I think, overall is what I don't like about Joy Division.
Yeah, again, I think they're just a Marmite thing. You either get it or you don't.
But yeah, excuse me. I wouldn't say that, like, they're in my top hated band or anything. They're songs that I like. I think they, like I said, they're massively influential, and I can understand why. Because if I was around at the time and I heard that would have influenced me going forward the same way that the bands who were influenced by them were influences on me later on.
Yeah, I was about to say, would you say like you respect them because the bands that were influenced by them, you just think there were better bands that were influenced by them, and that's why you respect them?
Yeah, I think they're sort of a product of their time, but because they never had a chance to grow beyond that, essentially the first year of having the album out and then having Closer out within sort of the same 12-month period, I think they never got a chance to actually evolve and explore different production styles, which would have, could have potentially very well made me a fan of them.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought like if you listen to the few tracks I do know of New Order, if you listen to them and then imagine Ian Curtis's voice or energy with them, it could have been really interesting, the direction they could have gone.
Yeah, I think if it stuck to that direction, that probably wouldn't have tickled me either.
That's fair.
That's fair. There was a way they could have won with this.
Yeah, I think again, I think it carries on the aesthetic of the first album, but I just think it's a bit quicker paced, a bit sharper. I like the introduction of synth. It's less morbid as well than the first album. It's still pretty morbid lyrically. I love songs like Isolation, and yeah, 24 Hours is an excellent song. I knew you'd like that one quite a bit, and that does feel like a Black Sabbath song.
Yeah,
so you can completely get that.
There was another song that I did like.
Well, so the song that I thought you would dig most in this album, but maybe not, because the biggest complaint you've had is the amount of space and atmosphere and stuff. I thought you'd really like Heart and Soul.
I was about to say there was another song that I liked on the album. I was just double checking my notes. Heart and Soul is good.
There you go.
But I have effectively, so I put Heart and Soul is good. But the album is a dirge. And then 24 Hours has energy. Again, and energy is underlined and has like two big arrows next to it indicating I need energy in an album. I cannot, like, even when we listen to slower paced stuff, there's a sense of urgency that I like about music and the way that it's created, and I love it when it comes across on an album. Even if the song is slow, you can still have a level of energy, and again, I think that's where the production sucks.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I think it is interesting as well when you think Joy Division's biggest song and most loved song is easily Love Will Tear Us Apart. That's the song that everyone knows without knowing Joy Division.
And if you don't know it, it goes down. Love will tear us apart. And that was a better vocal performance than Ian Curtis ever delivered, even after his death.
But it's so interesting with that song because you can tell it's still very much a Joy Division song, but it does have the edge, the energy, the urgency, and the more full sound that they never really had on any of their albums.
Can I quickly go into the actual bass line a sec for that song?
Yeah.
So, I'm trying the best way of doing this now. Do I show off? Ooh, who knows? So, with Love Will Tear Us Apart, there's a significantly interesting thing to me, that the way Peter Hook plays it. So, the whole intro, the thing that's coming through loud and clear, which is, again, it's very trebly and not bassy at all, but it's Peter Hook essentially playing lead again. So the intro is it's a D, I think, power chord D. Power chord on the bass. Again, cleaner though than some of the other album recordings where the bass is usually fairly distorted. So you get through that, and then the actual main riff of the it's hard to do it justice by just making the noises, because what he's actually playing is he's got the open D, and he's playing the riff through on the G, and then at the very end of it, so that's all throughout the down, and then when he goes down, he goes into sort of like an inverted chord, and then he switches back to a power chord again afterwards. And the reason I picked that out, and I know our manifesto at the very first episode was we're not going to get too technical with certain things, but I do geek out about little things like this. The reason that's unique is because not many bass players ever play around with chords. You'll get someone like Flea who will play certain styles of chords, but not just like power chords and things like that, unless you listen to Don't Forget Me, where he does. Steve Harris obviously plays power chords as well, but again, his usually it's either slower parts of music where it's you want the big heavy glung 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 you'd get,
Yeah.
or it would be when he's doing the gallops, it goes gling 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 gling, because he's a pain in the ass. And Lemmy also played chords as well. I think it's the way Peter Hook plays his bass in the first place. With it being really low slung and he plays with a pick, it's easier doing chords than it is trying to hit single notes, especially if you're playing on the fucking G.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And that's where I have issues, because I don't know if he's a good bassist or not. It's really weird.
He's just a unique bassist.
Yeah, he's very unique.
But you can't work out whether you're a fan.
Yeah, it's like I can sit there and like, his bass was like the only thing I could really latch onto throughout the majority of the albums. Well, throughout both the albums, not the majority. Yeah, it's this weird thing of just to flip back slightly to Unknown Pleasure, because I forgot to talk about it at the time. In Disorder is possibly their most famous. See, I know my shit. I was like legitimately staring at the frets on my bass throughout all of that, like it was Guitar Hero.
You know what though? I think people have this thing with Joy Division in general, because I don't think it's just the bass. I think the guitar goes in a very similar way, because he comes up with very unique, striking riffs that cater to the song really well, but it's so sparing and it's so absent from most of their music, and then it just cuts in, and you can tell that's purposely done. But it's hard to turn around and say, well, is he an excellent guitarist in terms of a rhythm guitarist, or is he not? And even his solos and stuff are pretty interesting. And it's the same from my point of view with the drums as well, because the drums are so simple, but in my opinion effective, and occasionally out of nowhere really complex.
Well, yeah, and I think also, again, large portions were programmed.
Yeah.
So
I don't necessarily think that's true, but I think that's true for the albums. But no matter what, he plays it live.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, live he's got to play it. I think on
Exactly.
the album it's harder to judge. I haven't seen enough live stuff to judge him, but I think over time Peter Hook has become a good bassist. I think at the time he's only a couple of years into playing bass.
Yeah, well, and in New Order are famous for their musicianship in general. They're all considered really excellent musicians now.
Well, what you're saying about guitar, though, guitar reminds me a lot of John Squire.
Yeah, I get that.
I reckon that's an influence on John Squire, funnily enough. Yeah, it's that idea of being able to space where you're putting your sort of guitar licks to make them come across better or add atmosphere to the song, rather than just playing guitar because you can play guitar.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
That's that restraint of trying to play as well, because you know as well as me, when you got a guitar in your hand, the first thing you want to do is start playing the solo to Master of Puppets.
This is what I really dig personally about Joy Division, is that it's all musically so simple and so spacious, and everyone's just doing what they feel they need to do, and no one's trying to show off. And they're all playing for the song, not for themselves, which I get works for some people and doesn't work for others.
I was going to say, it's the funny thing, like, you could argue that because the bass lines themselves, like, they are I'm not going to go too much into it again, but the bass lines themselves, when I say they're the lead, they're sort of the higher portion of the harmony that is pushing forward the songs at all points. So, you know, whether it's She's Lost Control or Disorder or anything really on the album, his bass always played with the higher notes, and it always comes through sharp. And you can sit there, you can make an argument, wow, he's showing off, he's playing too much, blah, blah, blah. But if you didn't have that, there'd be nothing to prop up everything else.
That's the thing.
And so him playing lead is perfect as a bassist.
Yeah, I think they it's clear with their songs that they have a motif, and they stick by it with each song. So they go, all right, well, in this song, the drums are going to be the center point, and they full on stick to that. And in this song, and it's usually the bass, and what's interesting as well is a lot of their songs tend to be the same from start to finish. There's not much build in a lot of their songs, which I think it was a reason that I was pretty sure you're not going to be a huge Joy Division fan, and one of the main reasons I thought is because of the lack of progression in their songs.
Yeah, I don't know if that would
I don't know why.
I
don't know why. For me, I think just because I know, like, again, you're such a huge Smiths fan, you're such a huge like Iron Maiden fan, and you like narrative songs and you like build, and these aren't that. They're very simple in nature.
Yeah, but I wouldn't sit there and say, Bodies by the Sex Pistols, or Sex Pistols rather,
Yeah,
has much progression throughout the song. It's a song about abortion. It's hard
no, it's true.
But I love the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, but I think it's different as well. Like, it's a case of all of their songs. Like, it's like the only song that they've ever done is a single that isn't on either of the album, called Atmosphere, another big famous song which is excellent, which I got you to listen to literally just before recording this. That has a lot of build, but other than that, none of their songs have that, and to me, I like that. I think it's another unique part of them as a band, but I can understand why someone would not get that. But I suppose I just misjudged you.
Yeah, you did. You really did. And
Fair.
I regret the day I've met you.
What do you think's my favourite on this album?
Oh, how dare you. It's going to be... I'm going to say 24 Hours.
Yeah, you're right. I actually really like. I think everything on this album is pretty on the same level as each other. I love the whole album from start to finish. Isolation, I think, is an excellent song. Heart and Soul, The Eternal, I really love as well. But 24 Hours, I think, just the random like heaviness, and then when it suddenly just drops right back, it's just so random and weird. But I really like it for that reason.
Yeah, that was the most fun of that album for me.
That's fair.
I was struggling when you said about the next album we'll talk about. My heart sank.
Yeah, you're like, oh no, I don't have to go. Well, so here's the thing. It was important for me, in terms of the context of talking about Joy Division, that we do listen to Still, which is the third album we're talking about. So the album we're about to get onto, Still, is a compilation album released after Ian Curtis's death, and it's basically a lot of unreleased tracks, some B-sides, and never or tracks that were released just as singles that never made it onto any of the albums. Then also I got you to listen to a couple other songs that they had as singles outside of even Still as well, because I think when you listen to these tracks, this stuff outside of the two albums, they become a really interesting band, because none of this stuff sounds like the two albums. To me, none of this stuff on this third album Still sounds like it would belong on the other two albums at all, which is why I think of those other two albums almost as concept albums, because they have such niche atmosphere that these songs don't belong on.
I think you could change 6 or 7 of the songs on Unknown Pleasures with some of the songs on Still, and I wouldn't have noticed a difference.
Really?
Yeah, and yeah.
See,
yeah,
I was
struggling.
I was really sure with Still you'd like it more because it's a lot more punky. A lot of these songs are a lot more punky and they're a lot more up tempo. So I thought they'd be more your taste.
Not with Still so much. There wasn't a lot up tempo.
Do you really think so? I thought it was much more up tempo compared to the other two albums.
I mean, that's like saying that a divorce is more upbeat than a funeral. It's kind of like both are traumatic events.
So I'm guessing you didn't like this at all as well.
You would be right. Apart from there was one song.
Yeah?
There is one song. Do you want to have a guess which song it was?
It's Dead Souls.
It is Dead Souls.
Yeah.
So,
which is the song that actually has build. So I was wrong about what I said earlier.
Yeah, again, this was a song that you maybe listened to just before we recorded as well. Because I had only managed to make it so far through Still. and I went off and listened to much more interesting music.
I like how throughout this podcast you're slowly
Sorry.
starting to shit on them.
What was the fucking... Oh, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure there's been like bands we listened to in the past where we just hung our heads in shame.
Yeah.
But it was... That was the thing, like... I could...
It was Smashing Pumpkins where we were both
Oh,
like...
melancholy. I forgot about that. It never ended. That's what it felt like. Apart from melancholy, it did go on for a lot longer, despite it being having more better songs. I'm pretty sure you could have put every single song that Joy Division is penned into.
Oh, I completely disagree.
But Dead Souls, I'm gonna blow your mind for the second time now.
Yes.
And immediately after, I'm going to blow your mind by talking about their legacy a little bit, and that'll be the third time in one podcast that I've blown your mind, if we're excluding the woos and all of that, because that blew your mind as well.
So true, so true. This has been an experience, to say the least, Jake.
This is Jake's experience. Have a tagline, like, are you experienced like Hendrix? You can have me like with my bass, like I'm Jimmy. So, Dead Souls. Now, if you remember rightly, after I listened to it, I sent you a text.
Yeah.
It said, I know this song. Now, are you curious how I know a random fucking B-side?
Is it because a band has covered it?
Why are you going down that route, perchance?
I don't know, I guess. Because I know, I don't know if it was Dead Souls, but I know Radiohead had a cover of Joy Division's song, but I can't remember what song it was. I think it could be Shadowplay. I'm not sure.
No idea. But you are close. It was a cover.
Yes.
By a band that I'm not a huge fan of, called 9 Inch Nails.
Oh, really?
So it wouldn't be a cover that I'd randomly hear. However, there is one context in which I would hear that song.
Yeah.
And that there was a film that came out in 1994, which is one of my... Like, it doesn't stand up now so much, but it's in like one of my top 5 favourite movies because I love it dearly. The Crow.
Yes.
Comic book of the same name by James O'Barr. In The Crow, there's a scene after when he sort of first goes back to the old place he lived and he's smashed in the mirror and he's putting the makeup on. You've got Burned by the Cure, which we talked about a week or two ago about the Cure and Joy Division having similar sounds. And then as he's running over the rooftops before he gets the first bad guy, whose name escapes me at the moment, the guy who's like, Halloween into manana.
Yeah.
He's never miss. What the fuck are you? You're no murder. So as he's sort of going over the rooftops, he jumps down. Dead Souls, the 9 Inch Nails version, is playing.
Right.
So as soon as the vocals and that kicked in, I was there like, holy fuck. I know this.
Do you prefer the 9 Inch Nails version or the Joy Division one?
It didn't matter actually. They did quite a faithful version of the song.
Yeah.
So I'll have to listen to the 9 Inch Nails one in full at some point. Because this is the reason why I was later starting on recording, because I was going through YouTube trying to find which scene.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, for some reason, I can't just get over the fact like it was in the movie at all. I gotta know which scene. I've got to know all the ins and outs of the cat's arsehole.
It actually suits it so much. So like one of the things we haven't mentioned as well is that, and it bothers me a little bit, but maybe it's because it's a reflection on me, but this Joy Division appearing on The Crow alongside The Cure and with like 9 Inch Nails doing a cover and everything like that, it brings up the fact that basically Joy Division helped spur or is seen a lot as goth music or goth punk.
100%.
And that bothers me because I'm not a goth man, but then I feel like I am nowadays. Like, I just listen to Joy Division or The Smiths. I like a couple of songs by The Cure nowadays. I just wear black all the time. But I don't get, like, I think it's just because it's depressing music. But
it's because the sound is very dark and gloomy.
Yeah.
So don't worry, you won't be called a goth if you listen to The Smiths. The Smiths aren't goth at all, even though they talk about sort of dark features at times. The Smiths wouldn't be considered goth, so you're fine. Joy Division was seen as sort of precursors to goth. However, if you were to listen to, say, Mission or Sisters of Mercy or The Cure, you'd be a goth.
Yeah, especially The Cure. I mean,
Sisters of Mercy, man, fuck me.
hey now. Here's the thing. I've just always thought of Joy Division as. I've just always thought of Joy Division as like post-punk. So they're far more closer to punk than they are goth music to me. But I don't know.
Well, the problem is you're thinking of goth purely as the music. Goth is a subculture of lots of things.
That's true. But so is punk.
Forget...
That's what I mean. Punk is a subculture as well. And
but you're getting goth isn't a newer term either. It's not a term for somebody who just has black hair, eyeliner, lipstick.
Oh no,
there are gothic painters, gothic artists.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the two subcultures that are in pop culture.
That's the thing. So when people are viewing it as compared to goth, they're not viewing it as compared to what goths look like.
Oh.
They're comparing it based on the overall mood and tone of.
Yeah, maybe that's right. I thought people put Joy Division in line with the subculture, in pop culture.
No, goth still wasn't exactly a proper thing by that point.
No, but I think people think of it as sort of like, do you know when people think of Iggy as like the godfather of punk? I thought people were thinking of like Joy Division as the godfathers of goth.
Yeah, and they kind of were, to a way, same as Black Sabbath, really, in that regard.
Yeah, that's true.
But obviously Sabbath had the more overt gothic things, because that's when goth then got linked with Satanism and ideas like that.
Yeah,
so, but yeah, it's all about the mood and tone. It's more gothic than anything else.
Yeah, that's fair. And there is drab music. I mean, not all of, well, even them more upbeat songs. Yeah, even the more upbeat songs like Disorder and Love Will Tear Us Apart, the subject matters aren't exactly happy, and they're known for that.
If we're talking about covers, may I blow your mind?
Go on then.
I've got something to feed you, honey. So, if you were to pick 3 people in the world who were going to be a cover band of Joy Division, who would you pick?
3 people in the world who would be in a cover band.
You're thinking somebody who can either do guitar and vocals or bass and vocals. So guitar, bass, drums. One of them.
Yeah.
Vocals. It's only 3
I would do Tom York.
Yep.
I would do. I don't know.
So, funnily enough, Tom York was in a band called Atoms for Peace that did actually do a cover of one fucking.
Well, like I said, Radiohead themselves have covered Joy Division as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking because this side band.
The bassist for Muse, I'd have him. I don't know his name.
Chris Wolfenstone.
There we go. And
I don't know how's that at the top of my head.
Actually, to be honest, like Muse could do, if you replace Matt Bellamy with Tom York, you could just have a Joy Division cover band.
So that's the thing. When I was talking about Atoms for Peace, you're sort of tangentially linked to the actual 3 people.
No way.
Who did do a cover band, which will blow your fucking mind because we are going to listen to a version of Disorder.
Okay.
By this band, so get your phone ready.
Yeah, who's the band? Who is in the band?
So the first member I'm going to give you is Josh Klinghoffer.
No way. Sick.
The second person I'm going to give to you is a bassist, very, very high-end bassist, the bassist who I adore.
The Flea.
Just Flea's fine. He's
not, Flea.
Flea is here. So just Klinghoffer, Flea. Now, who would be doing guitars and vocals?
John Frusciante? No way.
Man. This is obviously long before recent events.
So Red Hot Chili Peppers had like a spin-off group that covered Joy Division.
I'm trying to confirm the name of the spin-off group. They only did 1 gig, but they did a 45-minute set of Joy Division covers.
Literally only Joy Division stuff.
Yeah,
That's
it was
crazy.
like it was at the Silver Lake Conservatory, I believe. Give me 2 seconds. Let me grab you more information because I forgot to leave the tab up that actually had some information on it.
Dude, that's blown my mind. I would never thought Joy Division influencing. I know Joy Division influenced a lot, but Red Hot Chili Peppers is not something that would have come to my mind.
Yeah, so it did actually influence the Chili's as well.
That's crazy.
I know, man. It's
I dig that quite a bit.
madness. So on your phone, we're going to do it now. I'm going to get you to
Yeah,
listen
yeah,
to
yeah.
it.
Okay.
And we can get away with it a little bit because it's live music.
Okay, cool.
So I want you to search
Disorder?
Flea Joy Division.
Oh, Flea, Joy Division.
Yeah. Now, the first thing you should hopefully get up will be something that says John Frusciante, Flea, and Josh Klinghoffer, Joy Division tribute.
Bear with. My phone's just being a bit late. John Frusciante, Flea, Josh Klinghoffer, Joy Division tribute, Los Angeles.
Yeah, it was in Spaceland rather than Silver Lake Conservatory. If you go
Okay.
onto that, and there should be a track list on there.
Yeah. Go to Disorder.
And click on Disorder. Yeah, we'll do Disorder.
Oh,
Or She's Lost Control, actually.
They covered Warsaw as well.
Yeah, I haven't heard that version yet. I didn't have enough time.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to save this and listen to all of this. Right,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna put Disorder on, yeah?
Disorder or She's Lost Control.
I'm gonna do Disorder.
Okay.
So who did the drums?
I think Josh must have.
Yeah.
That sounds fucking excellent.
That's crazy.
I wish there's video. Stay frosty.
Yeah, our video would be so good.